HVX, Frequency Exchange 1, when awareness begins to move. Hey Reasonauts, every day is awesome, we just have to get through it. So, welcome back to Human Velocity X, where my name isn't important. The message is, this is not a regular episode, this is a frequency exchange, a place between movements, a place between frequencies, a place to pause long enough to notice what happened while you were busy listening, to look back, to notice what changed, to notice what stayed the same, to notice what your awareness has been quietly trying to show you across these conversations. Because Frequency 1 was never just a collection of episodes. It was never just a podcast, never just ideas, never just conversations. It was a quiet awakening. Frequency 1, a quiet awakening for the aware. Episodes 1 through 7 were not here to give you a new identity. They were here to help you recognize what had already been moving inside you. And maybe, if you've been here from the beginning, something started happening that was difficult to explain. Not a transformation, not a revelation, not some dramatic moment where everything suddenly made sense. Something quieter than that, something more familiar. A remembering, a signal, a recognition, a feeling that something inside you was coming back online. Not loudly, not dramatically, not all at once, but slowly. The way sunrise happens, the way seasons change, the way awareness returns after years of being ignored. Maybe there were moments during these episodes when you stopped and thought, I know this. I've felt this. I've lived this. I just never had language for it. And maybe that realization showed up more than once. When we talked about awareness, when we talked about pride, when we talked about thinking, emotional weather, silence, resonance, not because those ideas were new, because they were familiar in the way truth often is. The strange thing about awareness is that when you finally hear it, it rarely sounds unfamiliar. It sounds remembered. That is what Frequency 1 was here to do, not to teach you how to become aware, not to give you something you didn't already possess, not to install a new operating system. It was here to help you recognize what had always been there. Awareness, waiting, listening, patiently, the signal beneath the noise, the truth beneath the performance, the stillness beneath the motion. And now, before we move from Frequency 1 into Frequency 2, before awareness begins to move from recognition into navigation, we need to pause and name something important. Because your awareness was never speaking from only one place. Your mind was noticing patterns, your body was feeling rooms, and your heart was recognizing why it mattered. That is part of what we are here to gather, not as a lesson, not as a framework to memorize, as something you may have already felt before anyone gave it language. Because sometimes the mind knows, sometimes the body knows, and sometimes the heart knew first, but had to wait for the rest of you to catch up. So take a breath, look back, and let's see what Frequency 1 was really trying to show us. Now, take a breath, not to prepare, not to perform, just to arrive in and out. Let your body remember where we've been. Frequency 1 began with recognition. We gave a name to something many of us had carried quietly. Reasonaut, not a title to make anyone special, not a label to place yourself above anyone else. A recognition, someone who notices beneath the surface, someone who feels the room before the room explains itself, someone who hears more than words, someone who senses that life is speaking through more channels than most people were taught to listen to. That was the first opening, not becoming someone new, remembering what may have always been true. Then we looked at loneliness, the kind that comes when you notice more than you can explain, the kind that happens when you're surrounded by people, but still feel like you're standing on a different level of the same room, same conversation, same moment, different experience. That loneliness was never proof that you were broken. Sometimes it was proof that your awareness had not yet found its language. And language matters, because once something has language, it becomes easier to carry. Not easy, just easier. Then we moved into thinking, the mind, the loops, the questions, the inner rooms, where thoughts echo, long after the moment ends. And maybe you realized your mind was not always trying to hurt you. Sometimes it was trying to organize. What your awareness kept noticing, sometimes thinking, was not the enemy. Sometimes thinking was your system trying to find a map. Then we talked about pride, not the obvious kind, not the loud kind that everyone notices, the deeper kind, the kind that convinces us to defend an image instead of protecting truth, the kind that keeps us talking when listening would help more, the kind that wants certainty more than understanding. And maybe you noticed something. Pride was never really about strength. It was about protection, a shield, a performance, an attempt to avoid looking at what felt vulnerable. And awareness could see through it, not to judge, to understand. Then we stepped into the emotional weather of the world, the invisible atmosphere people carry, the storms, the pressure systems, the heaviness that enters a room before anyone mentions it, the relief that arrives when truth finally speaks. You learn something there. Not every feeling belongs to you. Not every tension is yours to carry. Sometimes awareness is simply noticing what is moving through the room, not becoming responsible for it. Then we sat with silence. And maybe that surprised you, because most people treat silence like an absence. But you never really did. You always knew something lived there. The pause before honesty, the space after pain, the breath before truth, the moments where words stop and reality keeps speaking. You learned that silence was never empty, only compressed. Truth waiting for language. And then we arrived at resonance, the invisible conversation, happening beneath every conversation, the way people affect us, the way some drain us, the way some restore us, the way some feel like friction and others feel like home. Not because anyone is better, not because anyone is worse, because awareness was finally noticing that not every presence moves the same way, not every nervous system speaks the same language, not every room costs the same energy. And if you step back now and look at frequency 1 as a whole, you might notice something. We weren't talking about different subjects. Not really. Awareness, loneliness, thinking, pride, emotional weather, silence, resonance. They were all pointing toward the same thing, the same signal, the same remembering, the same realization that awareness was already present, already listening, already noticing, long before you knew what to call it. And maybe that's what changed. Not your awareness, your relationship to it. But here is where the exchange begins. Because there are many ways to read a signal, and in this exchange, we are not forcing one meaning. We are listening for the movement underneath all of them. Maybe frequency 1 reached you as recognition. Maybe you heard these episodes and felt something inside you say, finally someone is saying what I never knew how to say. Finally, there is language for what my body has always known. Finally, I do not have to call myself broken just because I notice what other people miss. Maybe frequency 1 reached you as relief because silence stopped feeling empty. Emotional weather stopped feeling random. Resonance stopped feeling imaginary. Your sensitivity stopped sounding like a flaw, and something in you softened. Not because life became simple, but because your experience became recognizable. Maybe frequency 1 reached you as grief, because realizing there was never anything wrong with you can also make you realize how long you believed there was. How many years you apologized for your awareness, how many rooms you shrank inside, how many times you ignored your body because someone else needed you to be easier. And if grief came up, that does not mean the frequency failed. Sometimes grief is what happens when truth finally has enough room to breathe. Maybe frequency 1 reached you as discomfort, because awareness does not always arrive like comfort. Sometimes awareness interrupts. It interrupts the story you used to survive. It interrupts the roles you kept playing. It interrupts the agreement you made with yourself to stop noticing so much. And discomfort does not automatically mean something is wrong. Sometimes discomfort means something honest is beginning to move. Maybe frequency 1 reached you as permission. Permission to listen to yourself. Permission to stop calling every signal overthinking. Permission to admit that some rooms cost more energy than others. Permission to honor silence. Permission to trust what your body has been trying to tell you. Maybe frequency 1 reached you as responsibility, not the heavy kind, not the kind where you become responsible for everyone else's emotions, but the quiet kind, the kind that asks, now that I hear this, how do I move with more honesty? Now that I notice, how do I stop abandoning myself? Now that I understand the signal, what do I do with the information? None of those readings make you right. None of them make you wrong. They only show where the signal met you. The same frequency can meet different histories. The same words can unlock different doors. One person hears awakening, another hears grief, another hears relief, another hears discomfort, another hears permission, another hears responsibility. That does not mean the signal changed. It means the signal entered different lives. And this matters. Because Human Velocity X is not here to force one interpretation onto every listener. It is not here to tell you which reaction you are supposed to have. It is here to create a space where you can notice what is true inside your own system. Because the deepest measure of awareness is not whether someone else understood it. It is what it produces inside your life. A frequency is not proven by how beautifully you explain it. It is proven by the fruit it produces. Did it make you more honest? Did it make you more grounded? Did it help you treat yourself with less cruelty? Did it help you move with more care? Did it help you stop mistaking self-abandonment for kindness? Did it make your awareness more sustainable? Did it help your next action be cleaner than your last reaction? Did it produce peace without making you passive? Did it produce strength without making you hard? Did it produce compassion without making you carry what is not yours? Because that is where the signal becomes real, not in the explanation, in the fruit, in the movement, in the way your life begins to tell the truth without needing to announce it. That is the fruit test. Not perfection, not performance, not whether everyone understood you. Fruit, because the fruit tells the truth, not the label, not the explanation, not the applause, not the approval, the fruit. And if the fruit was not good, that does not mean shame. It means calibration. It means pause. It means return. It means listen again, because these episodes were never meant to be consumed once and left behind. They are places to return to, rooms inside the larger house of your awareness. When you forget that you are not broken, return to the beginning. When you feel alone inside what you notice, return to the question. When your mind gets loud, return to the thinking. When pride starts defending what truth is asking you to see, return to the signal beneath it. When the emotional weather feels too heavy, return to what the room is carrying. When silence feels overwhelming, return to the pause. When your energy feels confusing, return to resonance. These episodes are not steps you climb once. They are spaces you can come back to when a part of you needs strengthening, not because you are weak, because awareness is alive. And living things need tending. One way to understand frequency 1 is through the butterfly. Not because you are a butterfly, not because the metaphor has to work for everyone. Just as one lens, one way to read the signal. The butterfly is not powerful because it stopped touching the ground. It is powerful because the ground is no longer the only way it knows how to move. That matters. Because the old way does not always die violently. Sometimes it dies quietly. It dies when you stop pretending you did not feel the room change. It dies when silence starts sounding like language. It dies when your body says, I have been trying to tell you this for years. It dies when your heart finally says, I was not dramatic. I was listening. You do not lose yourself. You lose the version of you that can only survive by crawling. Honor that version. It kept you alive. It helped you move through rooms that did not make space for your wings. But do not mistake survival posture for identity. That old shape was not evil. It was useful. It carried you until awareness could carry you differently. And maybe you will still touch the ground. Maybe you will still have moments where you crawl, moments where you pause, moments where you move slowly, moments where you need to remember how to breathe. That is not failure. The butterfly can still land. It can still walk, but it will never belong to crawling again. That is the movement between frequency 1 and frequency 2. Frequency 1 was not full flight. It was recognition. It was the cocoon. Beginning to understand that something was changing shape. Frequency 2 is not about rushing into the sky. It is about learning how awareness moves, how it chooses, how it steps back, how it stays steady, how it begins to recognize limits, how it listens without absorbing, how it speaks without forcing, how it moves through real situations without losing itself. Frequency 1 said, you are aware. Frequency 2 asks, How will you move with what you now know? And that question matters, because awareness without movement can become weight. You notice everything, feel everything, think through everything, sense every shift, hear every silence, register every room. And if awareness never learns movement, it can become a place you stand still in. But awareness was never meant to trap you. It was meant to help you navigate. That is why the next frequency has to happen. Because after recognition comes navigation. After signal comes movement. After awareness wakes up, it begins to ask for a life that can hold it. Not a perfect life, not an easy life. Not a life where every room understands you. A life where you stop abandoning yourself just to remain understandable. So before we leave frequency 1, tease breathe with it one more time. Take a breath, in and out. Let your body remember you were not broken. You were noticing. Take another breath, in and out. Let your mind remember you do not have to explain every signal to honor it. Take one more breath, in and out. Let your heart remember what mattered was never weakness. What moved you was not always confusion. Sometimes your heart was not overreacting. Sometimes it was recognizing meaning before your mind had language. Now quietly recognize. I noticed. I listened. I remembered. And now I can move. That is the exchange, not a goodbye to frequency 1. Attenuation, a turning. A quiet movement from recognition into navigation. A thank you. Thank you to the awareness that stayed alive even when you doubted it. Thank you to the part of you that kept noticing. Thank you to the quiet self that kept listening beneath the noise. Thank you to the body that kept telling the truth. Thank you to the silence that waited until you were ready. Thank you to the resonance that kept pointing toward alignment. You are a Reasonaut, and your awareness is not something you have to apologize for. It is something you are learning how to live with. If this frequency exchange resonated with you, subscribe and stay with us each week. Share it with someone who is beginning to recognize their own signal. And if you want to continue the conversation, you can find Human Velocity X on Facebook too. Not for hype, not for noise, just a place where fellow Reasonauts can return to the signal together. Next time, we step into frequency 2, vigating the signal. And soon, episode 8 will take us into something many of you have felt before. The people who feel like home. Not just the people who recharge you, but the people around whom you stop performing. The people who let your nervous system rest. The people who make belonging feel quiet, natural, and unforced. Because sometimes home is not a place. Sometimes home is a presence. And awareness recognizes that too. This is where awareness begins to move through real life. Through rooms. Through relationships. Through the edges of what you can carry. Through choices. Through moments where the signal is clear, but the next step still requires courage. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for noticing. Thank you for being. You are a Reasonaut, and your resonance is your awareness. My name isn't important. The message is, every day is awesome. We just have to get through it.